She won't always say it out loud, but her body will. Every curve, every look, every tiny move is a confession. The question is, are you paying attention? Today, we're diving into something most men miss, yet it's right there in front of them every single day. Female body language. Women rarely spell out their attraction directly. Instead, they send signals silent, powerful, and deeply psychological. And if you learn to see them, really see them, you start understanding a language most people never even realize exists. Before we go any deeper, I want you to do something simple. Just take 1 second and hit that like button. Not for me, but for yourself. Because the more aware you become of these subtle signals, the more control you gain in your interactions. And I'm curious, have you ever felt like a woman was interested in you, but you weren't completely sure? Like something was there, but you couldn't quite read it? Because that uncertainty? That's exactly what we're going to break today. My name is Sarah Jones, and I want to guide you through something most men are never taught. Not because it's complicated, but because it's quiet, it's subtle, and it requires a different kind of awareness, one that goes beyond words. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever replayed a moment in your head, wondering if she was flirting with you, wondering if that smile meant something more? If that touch lingered just a little too long? If the way she looked at you wasn't just casual? That feeling, that doubt, is where most men get stuck. Not because the signals aren't there, but because they've never been trained to recognize them. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Attraction doesn't start with words. It starts in the body. It leaks out through gestures, micro movements, subtle shifts in posture. Things so small that if you're not paying attention, you'll miss them completely. But once you learn to see them, you can never unsee them again. Let's start with something simple. Something almost every man has noticed, but very few understand. The lip bite. Picture this. You're talking to her. Maybe it's a light conversation, maybe you're joking, maybe you're just getting to know each other. And suddenly, she bites her lower lip. Quick, subtle, almost like she didn't even mean to do it. Most men ignore it. They think it's random, a habit, something meaningless. But here's what's really happening. When a woman feels attraction, her body begins to respond automatically. Blood flow increases, especially to sensitive areas like the lips. They become slightly fuller, more responsive. And that small act, the bite, the lick, the gentle press of her teeth, is her body trying to regulate that rising tension. It's not always intentional. In fact, most of the time, it's not. It's instinct. And here's where it gets deeper. Sometimes she doesn't even realize she's doing it. But in that exact moment, her mind has shifted. She's no longer just listening to your words. Something else has taken over. A thought, a feeling, a spark of imagination. And if you're present enough, you'll feel the shift too. You'll notice the pause, the slight change in her breathing, the way her eyes soften, even for a second. Let me give you a real-life example. I once worked with a client who told me about a woman he met at a small gathering. They were talking casually, nothing intense. But at one point, he said something playful, just a teasing remark, and she smiled, then bit her lip for a brief second. He noticed it, but dismissed it. Later that night, she became distant, less responsive, and he couldn't understand why. But what he didn't realize was this. That moment, the lip bite, was an opening. It was her body expressing interest, testing the emotional energy between them. And when he didn't respond to that shift, the moment passed. Attraction is like a window, and sometimes it only stays open for seconds. So the question becomes, are you present enough to catch it? Now let's move into something even more powerful, her touch. Let's be honest, women don't just randomly touch men without a reason, so when it happens, it matters. But here's the tricky part. It rarely starts in a way that's obvious. It's subtle. She adjusts your collar, brushes something off your shirt, touches your arm when she laughs. Maybe her fingers linger just a second longer than necessary. To you, it feels casual. To her, it's a test. And psychologically, this is where things get fascinating. There's a hormone called oxytocin, often referred to as the bonding hormone. When attraction begins to build, this hormone increases, creating a desire for closeness, for connection, for physical proximity. And that desire shows up through touch, but not just any touch, intentional, but disguised. Because she's not just expressing interest, she's measuring you. She's watching how you respond, Do you pull away? Do you freeze? Do you lean in? Even slightly? Because your reaction tells her everything she needs to know. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that some women seem more touchy with you than others? They find reasons to be close, reasons to make contact, reasons to bridge that physical gap. That's not random, that's selective behavior. And once you start noticing it, you'll realize something important. Attraction is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. And if you're only listening for loud signals, you'll miss the ones that matter most. Most men either overreact or do nothing. Both break the connection. Now here's where most men make a mistake. They either overreact or they do nothing. And both of those responses break the connection. Because attraction thrives in balance. If she reaches, you don't grab, you don't retreat, you meet her halfway. You allow the moment to breathe. You acknowledge it without making it heavy, because the moment you turn something subtle into something intense, you disrupt the rhythm. And attraction is all about rhythm. Now let's go deeper. Her body doesn't just speak through touch, it speaks through movement. And one of the oldest signals in human psychology is the movement of the hips. Now I want you to really picture this. She walks past you. At first glance it looks normal, but then something feels different. Her steps slow down slightly. Her hips sway just a bit more than usual. There's a rhythm, a fluidity, a kind of awareness in her movement. And here's the truth. This is not something she consciously plans. It's not like she stands in front of a mirror thinking, let me walk in a certain way. No, this is deeper than that. This is biological. Studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that when a woman is around someone she's attracted to, her body naturally amplifies certain movements, especially those associated with femininity and fertility. And the hips are central to that. It's not performance, it's instinct. And what makes it powerful is that it's honest, because the body doesn't lie the way words can. Now I want you to think about something. Have you ever seen a woman walk differently when she knows someone is watching? There's a shift, a subtle change in pace, a slight exaggeration in movement. That's awareness meeting attraction. And if you're paying attention, it's impossible to miss. But here's the deeper layer. She's not doing it for everyone, she's doing it selectively, which means if you're noticing it, there's a reason. And this is where your awareness becomes your advantage, because most men are distracted. They're in their heads, thinking about what to say next, worried about how they're being perceived. But the men who truly understand attraction, they're not just listening to words, they're reading energy, they're observing patterns, they're present, and presence is what allows you to see what others can't. So as you go through your day, I want you to start noticing, not obsessively, not in a forced way, but with curiosity. Because once you begin to see these patterns, you'll realize something powerful. Attraction has been happening around you all along. You just weren't taught how to recognize it, and this is just the beginning. Now here's where things start to get even more revealing, because up until now, we've been talking about signals you can see if you're observant. But what if I told you, some of the most powerful signals aren't just seen, they're felt. Let's talk about the eyes. You've experienced this before, even if you didn't fully understand it at the time. That moment when she looks at you, and it lingers just a little longer than normal. Then she looks away, and then, almost like she can't help herself, she looks back again. There's a rhythm to it, a silent pull. And here's the truth. Eyes are one of the hardest things for the body to control when attraction is present. Because while words can be filtered, behavior can be adjusted, the eyes, they leak truth. When a woman is attracted to you, her pupils naturally dilate. It's a biological response, her body opening up, literally, to what it finds interesting, engaging, desirable. But beyond biology, there's something more emotional happening. Eye contact creates intimacy, fast. In fact, psychological studies have shown that prolonged eye contact can create a sense of connection between two people in a matter of seconds, even if they've just met. So when she holds your gaze, or when her eyes drift, even briefly, toward your lips, that's not random. That's her mind wandering into a different space. A more intimate one. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught a woman looking at you? And the second you noticed, she quickly looked away? And maybe you thought, was that just coincidence? It wasn't. Because here's what most men don't realize. That second glance is everything. The first look might be curiosity, but the second, that's interest. And if there's a third, Now you're in a completely different territory. I remember a conversation with a man who told me he kept noticing a woman at his gym glancing at him. Nothing obvious, no smiles, no approach. Just repeated eye contact. He ignored it for weeks, until one day he finally held her gaze instead of looking away. And something shifted. She smiled, softly. And that was the beginning of everything. Not because of something he said, but because he finally responded to what was already there. That's the power of awareness. Now let's move into something even more overlooked. Her legs. Yes, her legs. This is one of the most underrated areas of body language, and yet it reveals so much about what's happening beneath the surface. Picture this. You're sitting across from her. Conversation is flowing. Everything seems normal. But if you look closely, her legs are moving. She crosses them, then uncrosses them, shifts her position, adjusts again. Her foot taps lightly, or her knees angle in your direction. Now, most men would assume this is just restlessness. Maybe she's bored. Maybe she's uncomfortable. But here's where psychology adds a deeper layer. There's something called displacement behavior. It's what happens when emotional energy builds up, and the body needs a way to release it. That energy has to go somewhere, and often it shows up in movement. So when attraction is present, especially when it's mixed with nervousness, the body becomes restless, not because she's uninterested, but because she's processing something she hasn't expressed yet. And here's the detail most people miss. Direction matters. Where her body points reveals where her attention is anchored. If her knees, her feet, her entire lower body is angled toward you, that's alignment. That's focus. That's subconscious commitment to the interaction, because the body naturally orients itself toward what it wants. Now think about this. Have you ever been in a group setting and noticed that even when she's talking to someone else, her body is still angled toward you? That's not accidental. That's priority. And once you start seeing that, you realize something very important. Attention isn't always verbal. Sometimes it's directional. Now let's go even deeper, because attraction doesn't just show up in what she does. It shows up in how she sounds, her voice. This is one of the most subtle and most powerful indicators of attraction. And the reason it's so powerful is because it's almost impossible to fake consistently. When a woman is speaking to someone she's attracted to, her tone often changes. It softens, slows down slightly, becomes warmer, more fluid, sometimes even a little playful. And here's what's fascinating. Research shows that women naturally adjust their vocal pitch when they're around someone they're interested in. Not consciously, not strategically, automatically. Because attraction isn't just emotional, it's physiological. And her voice becomes part of that expression. Let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed that a woman's voice sounds different when she talks to you compared to how she talks to others? Maybe she laughs more. Maybe her words stretch a little longer. Maybe when she says your name, it feels different. There's a softness to it, a kind of a tension wrapped inside the sound. That's not your imagination. That's emotional energy being translated into tone. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Sometimes, what she says doesn't matter as much as how she says it. Because the words might be casual, but the delivery, that's where the meaning lives. And if you're only listening to content, you'll miss the emotion completely. Now let's talk about something almost every man has seen, but very few truly understand: her hair. This is one of the most classic signs of attraction, and also one of the most misunderstood. Because on the surface, it looks like nothing. She adjusts her hair, tucks it behind her ear, runs her fingers through it, lets it fall to one side. Simple, right? But here's what's actually happening. In psychology, this is often referred to as a form of grooming behavior, an unconscious attempt to present oneself more attractively. But more than that, it's a release, a way for her body to channel nervous energy. Because attraction, especially in its early stages, is rarely calm. It's charged. There's tension, anticipation, uncertainty. And that energy needs an outlet, so it shows up in these small, repetitive gestures. But here's the key. Frequency and context matter. Is she doing it more around you than others? Does it happen when you're speaking? When your eyes meet? When there's a pause in the conversation? Because if the answer is yes, then it's not just a habit, it's a response. And here's something even more subtle. When she exposes her neck while adjusting her hair, that's vulnerability, that's openness, that's trust. Because biologically, the neck is a sensitive area, and exposing it, even briefly, is a signal of comfort and interest. Now I want you to take a step back for a second. Think about everything we've covered so far. The eyes, the legs, the voice, the hair. None of these signals are loud, none of them scream for attention, but together, they create a pattern. And that pattern tells a story that most men never learn how to read, but you're learning it now. And here's where it all starts to come together. Because attraction isn't about one signal, it's about clusters. Multiple small behaviors aligning in the same direction. And when you see that alignment, that's when you know something real is happening. So let me ask you one more question before we move forward. Have you ever missed these signals before? Have you ever looked back at a moment and thought, wait, was she actually interested? If that's happened to you, you're not alone. But from this point on, you won't be blind to it anymore. Because awareness changes everything. And in the final part, I'm going to show you the signals that tie all of this together, and the one mistake that can destroy attraction, even when all the signs are there. Now let's bring everything together. Because up until this point, you've learned how to see the signals, but what most men still don't understand is this. Seeing the signals is only half the game. Responding to them correctly, that's where attraction either grows or disappears. Let's talk about one of the most powerful yet overlooked signals of all. Her body leaning closer to you. This is where attraction becomes undeniable, because when a woman is truly interested, distance starts to disappear. You'll notice it in subtle ways at first. She leans in when you speak. Her shoulder angles toward you. Even in a group setting, her body slowly closes the gap, inch by inch. And here's the truth. People naturally move closer to what they feel comfortable with and what they're drawn to. It's instinct, it's not calculated. So when she leans in, she's not just listening, she's investing. She's allowing you into her personal space. And that's something she doesn't do for everyone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been talking to a woman and suddenly realized how close she was standing? Close enough that you could feel her presence, her warmth, even her breath? And in that moment, something shifted. That's not accidental. That's intimacy in motion. And here's where most men make a critical mistake. They either panic or they overcommit. They move too fast, they say something too heavy, they break the natural flow of the moment, but attraction doesn't work like that. It's not something you chase, it's something you match. If she leans in, you don't freeze, you don't pull away, and you don't rush forward aggressively. You stay grounded, you stay present, and you allow the moment to expand naturally, because confidence is calm. It's controlled. It doesn't force, it doesn't chase, it responds. Now let's talk about the mistake that destroys everything. Even when all the signals are there, even when she's clearly interested, even when her body is practically telling you, I'm into you. And that mistake is this: misreading confidence as pressure. Here's what I mean. A woman can show multiple signs of attraction, eye contact, touch, leaning in, playful tone. But if you suddenly shift into trying to secure the outcome, you change the entire dynamic. You go from being present to being needy, from being grounded to being outcome driven. And she feels that shift instantly, because attraction thrives in emotional safety, not pressure. Let me give you a real scenario. A man notices all the signs. She's laughing, touching his arm, holding eye contact, leaning closer. Everything is aligned, and then suddenly, he tries too hard. He starts over-talking, over-explaining, pushing for validation, or worse. He escalates too aggressively, and in that moment, the energy breaks, because instead of meeting her where she is, he tries to pull her faster than she's ready to go. And attraction doesn't respond well to force. It responds to calibration. to awareness, to emotional intelligence. So here's the principle I want you to remember. Attraction is not about doing more. It's about doing less, but better. It's about noticing, matching, and allowing. Now let's go even deeper into something most men completely overlook: emotional congruence. This is the invisible thread that ties everything together. Because a woman's body language, her tone, her movements, they all need to feel aligned with your energy. If she's warm and you're cold, there's a disconnect. If she's playful and you're serious, there's friction. If she's leaning in and you're distracted, the moment dies. Attraction is like a dance, and if you're not in rhythm, you step on each other's feet. But when you are in sync, everything flows effortlessly. Conversation feels natural, silence feels comfortable, eye contact feels electric. And here's the beautiful part. When you reach that level of connection, you don't need tricks, you don't need lines, you don't need strategies, because the interaction becomes real. Now I want to pause for a second. If you've made it this far, it means you're not just casually watching, you're learning, you're paying attention. And that already puts you ahead of most people. So if this is opening your eyes even a little bit, take a second, hit that like button. And I want you to comment something honestly. Which of these signals have you noticed in real life, but didn't fully understand until now? Because awareness grows when you engage with it. And if you want to go even deeper into understanding female psychology, attraction, and emotional intelligence, make sure you subscribe to the Female Signals, because this is just the surface. There's so much more beneath it. Now let's bring this to a close with something powerful, the one signal you should never ignore. Consistency, not one sign, not one moment, but repetition. Because anyone can show a single signal by accident. But patterns? Patterns don't lie. If she consistently looks at you, consistently finds reasons to touch you, consistently leans in, consistently aligns her body toward you, that's not coincidence. That's intention. Even if she never says a word. And this is where everything changes. Because once you start recognizing patterns, you stop guessing. You stop overthinking. You stop doubting yourself. And instead, you know. You know when she's interested. You know when she's comfortable. You know when the moment is right, and that certainty changes how you show up. You become calmer, more present, more grounded. And ironically, that's what makes you more attractive. Because confidence isn't loud, it's quiet, it's controlled, it's aware. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. Women may not always say what they feel, but they almost always show it through their eyes, their touch, their voice, their movement, their presence. And if you learn to read those signals, you'll start seeing a completely different world. A world where attraction isn't confusing. It's just unspoken. So the next time you're around a woman, don't just listen to what she says. Watch what she does, feel the energy, notice the patterns, and most importantly, stay present enough to receive what's already being given. Because the truth is, it's been there all along. You just needed to learn how to see it.